Hello everybody and welcome to the video. Today I'm going to be recommending to you guys 10 units that you should be picking up in this 11th anniversary Hall of Heroes event.
No, it's not 4. Come on. It's like, get out my
Darwin!
What's so fucking...
So as I mentioned in the introduction, I'm going to be recommending to you guys 10 units that I'm going to at least be picking. But if you're having a bit of a hard time deciding which units to pick, since you literally get to pick from over 100 units from past Hall of Heroes, I can at least recommend 10 that I'm personally going for. All the units that I'm going to name in this video, I'm aiming for. We also do have an honorable mentions because there are more than 10 good units, right? Just because I go over 10, that doesn't mean that these are the only good units and everybody else is trash. These are just what I prefer. But I did put a couple honorable mentions. If you don't hear your unit in here, if you're like, oh, I'm going to be picking this unit, he didn't mention it, so his list must be wrong. It's like, no, I just don't have the time to sit here and go through 50 different units. This video is already going to be super long. So, yeah. But for those of you who don't know how that event works, essentially once a week, for a week, you'll get to pick one unit, and its Hall of Heroes will open up, and it'll be up to you to complete it. So far, this is one of the units that it's going to be on this list. This is actually going to be the first unit that we'll go over. But I've already picked it, and I just need to beat the 10th floor. I just need to do it manually. But every single week, you'll get to pick another unit, and you can pick one unit from anywhere. So I know in the 10th anniversary, we kind of got an event like this, but there were some weeks where you got two really good units next to each other, and then the next week it was like two mediocre units next to each other. And that really sucked because it was one week it's like a super hard decision, and then one week it's like it doesn't matter what decision you make because both of these are kind of meh. But now you have the opportunity to put your hands on some really good units, and I'm going to recommend a few to you. But on top of that, we're going to be following one simple rule. No main attribute units, only light darks. Reason being is because you can summon a main attribute any day of the week. I could summon a mystical scroll right now and probably get like a water cannon girl, right? And she's on one of the Hall of Heroes. So don't be like, oh, why didn't you pick Abigail? She's a really good unit. Or why didn't you pick one of the water chakram dancers? You can get them literally any day of the week. Heck, if you're smart enough and you saved your engraved summoning pieces, you could literally wait till the next week to get one of these units. There's no reason for you to pick a main attribute. But it's a game, so you just pick who you want. But if you're trying to pick a unit that you know is good and is very difficult to obtain because of their attribute, because of light darks and light dark scrolls and that whole nonsense, then I don't know. You should understand where I'm coming from. So all the units on this list are light darks. So yeah, but we're not going to waste any time. Let's just get into the first unit. Starting off with the first unit on this list, we have Madeline, the Light Blacksmith, or Rune Blacksmith. Yeah, she has a very long monster family name. But Madeline is actually a pretty freaking good unit. She's pretty good at supporting her team with attack and defense buffs, and sometimes even shields. And at the same time, she also resets the cooldowns of your ally skills. Most of the time, it's only by one turn, but sometimes by 2 turns. And you're like, sometimes? What do you mean sometimes? Let's talk about it. So, ignoring her skill 1, because it's going to be the same as every single other one, she increases the attack power and defense of all allies for 2 turns. Or, if she does a skill and she gets a great, which we'll explain that in a second, she can increase the attack power and defense for 3 turns and creates a shield that absorbs damage for 3 turns on all allies. The shield amount is proportionate to your level. So this whole great activation thing, this happens anytime she uses either her skill 2 or skill 3. So whenever she uses a skill, there's a percentage chance, I believe it said 30%. There's a 30% chance it is a great, quote unquote. There will be a little special animation for it, and it'll give them that secondary option. So most of the time, you'll just get the attack and defense for 2 turns, but sometimes you'll get that attack and defense for 3 turns plus a shield, which Alone, the attack and defense is good enough, but then the shield on top of that can come in clutch. And the same thing kind of occurs with her third skill. She reduces all allies' skill cooldown times by 1 turn and increases the duration of granted beneficial effects by 1 turn each. This includes the attack, defense, and shield buff on them that she was mentioning. This literally any beneficial effects. But if she does get the great activation, she decreases the cooldown time of all allies by 1 turn each and increases the duration of granted beneficial effects by 1 turn. Additionally, right? So you're talking about two instead of one, right? Which I think this makes her a really good unit. I mean, you're getting your skills faster, your buffs are lasting longer. This is going to be good in some guild content. You could, yeah, I mean, you could use it in arena, I suppose, but you're going to be using it a lot in PVE. She's a really good PVE monster, but she's good in a lot of places. You can see she's using Siege, Rift of Worlds. She could definitely be used in R5. R5 is definitely one of those places. Yeah, look at that. She's a pretty decent unit. I would recommend picking her up. But let's move on to the next unit. The next unit that I'm going to recommend to you guys is the Dark Death Knight, Diaz. I should mention, by the way, this list is in no particular order. So just because like I put Madeline first, that doesn't mean Madeline is the best, and it doesn't mean that she's the worst. I didn't bother to put it in any order. I don't think that I should, because you're talking about comparing like a support to a damage dealer, right? That would make no sense. So just need to mention that. But Diaz, the Dark Death Knight. What is Diaz used for? He's mainly going to be used for R5, but he can be used in a couple other places. He is almost like Darian, but a little bit better in a couple ways. Let's talk about it. His skill 1 applies Disturb HP recovery for 2 turns, and he can do damage based off of his max HP. Disturb HP recovery is going to come in clutch in R5 because I do believe the boss heals himself. It's been a while since I've looked at the skill info, but we have used him in a video. There is a video that I've made on him. There's a video I've made on pretty much every single one of these units. I've made a video on Madeline, the light black rune blacksmith. I've made a video on Diaz. I highly recommend you go check them out. I'll flash them up on screen in case you want to go and find them. But the cool thing about the Dark Death Knight and his kit is that you don't need to skill him up, by the way. You'll see that this is a passive. This is a skill 2. There's no cooldown time reductions. It's already at 2 turns. And his skill 1 is a skill 1. But Disturb HP recovery is going to be helpful for R5. Skill 2, you could use every 2 turns from the get-go. Attacks the enemy 2 times and weakens the attack, power, and defense for 2 turns with a 75% chance with each attack. Right? So it already has high base accuracy, but if you do decide to skill him up, which you don't need to, it can increase that to 100%. I believe that is additive, right? So it is 100%. It still can get resisted, but you'll just have a higher chance. But you just put some accuracy on him. The way you build this guy is very, very simple. And then you could increase the damage you deal according to your max HP, which you're going to throw a lot of HP on him anyways. But what makes him similar to Darian is his skill 3, his passive. He decreases the chances of receiving critical hits by 50%. And this is going to be pretty much him specifically. But since you're going to be frontlining him on the Rift Raid, and even in a couple Rift Beasts, it only really needs to be him. As long as he is not the one taking critical hits, which is important, that really is all that matters. All that matters. Again, check out the video where I go into much more depth with this guy. You get to see him in action. He reduces the damage he receives from light attributes by 50%, which is a really big deal. And he reduces the damage that other allies receive by 15%. This effect doesn't accumulate with other damage reduction effect skills, which this is kind of the same as Darian's passive. I believe this is before Darian. No, this is 20%, and then when he 2As, it's 30%. But he receives increased damage, though. But Diaz is still, in my opinion, a much better unit. Especially since, 4 stars. 4 stars have more stats. But the way you can build this guy is you can build him moderately fast. He doesn't need to be super fast. Tons of HP, tons of defense, tons of resistance, and tons of accuracy. That's all he needs. He does not need to be moving all that fast. You're not going to really use him in PvP. You could use him in a couple bits of guild content, but you see he's not really used all that often in Arena. A bit in Siege, but that's kind of expected on very tanky teams. I mean, you get the resistance 30%, which that resistance lead you could use as well in R5, but you see he's mainly in R5 front lines. So really good leader skill. Really good leader skill. And it's universal too. But I highly recommend picking this guy up if you don't have him. But some of these other units I would recommend you pick up first. But let's move on to the next unit. Moving on to the next unit, the Dark Phantom Thief Guilliman. Made a video on this guy, putting it up on screen. Um, he's similar to Gene, but a little bit better in a way. Let's talk about it. So skill 1 and his skill 2 both have a 30% crit rate bonus. So when you build this guy, you can kind of relax on his crit rate. I recommend getting around 50%, and that's all he'll need. And then you can focus the substats on something else. You know, whenever you roll a rune and it goes either into crit rate, crit damage, or if you're unlucky, like resistance, because for some reason your rage runes have resistance on them. That resistance or crit damage might not actually be that bad of a roll. I mean, obviously the resistance. I'm trying to, for some reason, justify resistance rolls on a rage rune, but he's not as crit rate hungry as other units. You can literally give him 50%, and thanks to these skill 1 and 2 crit rate bonuses, uh, technically his attacks will have like 80%, if the math is right in my head. So you could focus more on crit damage, attack, or you can even give him a bit of HP. I mean, you could have a Guilliman that has 12k bonus HP, 500 bonus defense, over 2k attack, and over 200% crit damage. We made a video on this guy. Again, go watch it. But he's a very powerful unit. His skill 2 is even better. I mean, his skill 1 has a little bit of a stun, but I don't really care too much about the stun. But the stun can be very helpful. His skill 2 is really nice because he ignores all damage reduction effects. This is shields, endure, anything that is preventing you from dealing damage, he's going to ignore on that skill 2. And that can hit very hard. Again, in that video, I believe I've hit well over 30, 40k. There's going to be something, I'm sure. Take a look at the screenshot, dude. The thumbnail, it's not clickbaity. It's literally a screenshot from a part of the video. But he can hit very, very hard. And I'm sure a part of that is because of his passive, where he increases his critical damage by 100% just alone. But on top of that, he increases the chances of receiving a glancing hit by 30%. And when he does receive that glancing hit, he gains an invincible effect for 1 turn. So he won't be able to die when he gets an invincible effect, unless you run into another Guilliman or any unit that has ignore all damage reduction, because invincible is a damage reduction effect. But this is still really good. I mean, you're talking about a damage dealer that at any time during the battle can place invincible on himself. And imagine if you put him in a defense where you're placing glancing on everybody, like with a different unit. Like, for example, I mean, you could just say like Shannon. For some reason, if he was on a team with Shannon, it's like Shannon is placing glancing hits on everybody with her skill 2. I believe it's skill. No, it's her skill 1. Never mind. Let me shut the hell up. What units place glancing AoE? Does the Succubus do it? Whatever. Someone does it. He does. Lucian does. But you get my point. You get my point. But he can be a very powerful unit. But let's just move on to the next unit. The next unit that we're going to be taking a look at is Sieg. Sieg? Whatever. Sieg. The Dark Samurai. He is a nice unit. I recommend picking up this unit. Like, he should be one of the first units you go after. Let's take a look at his kit real quick. So his skill 1 attacks the enemy and has a chance at decreasing the defense for 2 turns with a 50% chance. This skill has a 20% chance to activate Sword of the Supreme Skywolf after using a skill on your turn. This is Supreme Sword of the Skywolf. We'll talk about it at the end of his kit. But he also has a 10% chance extra. Like, he adds 10% onto that, so it becomes 30% if you can land a critical hit, which you will land critical hits because he's going to be built as a damage dealer. So 30% chance to activate this little skill right here. And he will activate this. But defense break on his skill 1 is going to be nice. Skill 2, it does require skill ups to get it down to 3 turns, and you do want to get it down to 3 turns. But if you're going to clear all 10 floors, you're going to have a couple skill ups. You're going to at least have 4, right? You're going to get 50. You have 250. You can have 4 extra ones if you can get all 10 floors done. But double slash swiftly attacks the enemy 2 times leaving continuous damage for 2 turns. We don't really care about the continuous damage, but you can have a 30% chance to activate Sword of the Supreme Skywolf after using this on your turn. It becomes 50% if you can land a critical hit. 50% chance to activate Sword of the Supreme Skywolf, hell yeah. Skill 3 attacks all enemies 2 times with energy of Pitch Black Darkness. Each attack deals 25% increased damage if the enemy is under harmful effects, which in most cases the enemy will. And deals 30% more damage if the target has light attributes. So this is going to make him really good for some PvE scenarios, and it's going to make him really good in arena and some PvP scenarios. Obviously, he's going to be really good everywhere. He's a good damage dealer that deals increased damage to light attributes. This skill has a 70% chance to activate Sword of the Supreme Skywolf after using the skill on your turn, and the activation chance increases by 30% additionally when you land a critical hit, so a 100% chance every 4 turns when fully skilled up. Now, the fabled Supreme Sword of the Skywolf Vagina attacks all enemies with a secret skill that deals substantial damage that ignores all beneficial effects that reduce the inflicted damage. So, damage reduction effects. Ignores all damage reduction effects. It could have just said that. And gains a turn instantly if Sword of the Supreme Skywolf is activated. This persists until the skill is used or the caster is defeated. So, essentially what that last part means is if he uses like a skill 1 and he activates Sword of the Supreme Skywolf, he'll just get another turn and then you could use it. So, the instant you get Sword of the Supreme Skywolf, you'll be able to just take another turn. So, if you do activate it, you're going to get to use it. But let's move on to the next unit. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Who would have known I would have also picked the Light Samurai? To be fair, they're both really good units, and you'll see why. Skill 1 is pretty much the same as the last one. It's a defense break. Skill 2 is a little bit different. Instead of placing dots, he increases his own attack speed for 2 turns. And the skill 3 is also a little bit different in the sense that instead of dealing increased damage to light attributes, he's dealing increased damage to dark attributes. But he also does deal increased damage if the enemy is under harmful effects. His Sword of the Supreme Skywolf is essentially the same. He ignores all beneficial effects that reduce the inflicted damage. So he's pretty much the same, but you're going to have one samurai that deals increased damage to dark units and one that deals increased damage to light units. I think it's worth picking both of them up. I personally am going to be picking both of them up. You build them pretty basic. Rage Blade, or you can go Rage Will if you're going to be using them in arena. But really, 2 really good units. I just thought these are going to be easy mentions. I mean, they're both damn near the same. Given for their except for their skill 2. Yeah, I'm just having to make sure. Okay, let's move on to the next unit. Dragunov. Oh my gosh, dude. Oh my gosh, man. I made a video on this guy. He is actually so fun. He's actually so fun. I made a video on this guy. Oh my gosh. Okay. I picked him just for personal stuff, but I made a video. I put it up on screen. We put this guy on like triple revenge, and bro, he is a murderer. He is a beast. Oh my god, I'm getting fucking flashes. We'll take a look at his kit and you'll understand why. His skill 1 attacks the enemy and inflicts damage that ignores all damage reduction effects. This is really, really good, right? Skill 2 strikes a hidden aim pose and increases the damage dealing to an enemy by 200% while in this pose, and increases the chances of receiving a glancing hit by 70% if you're attacked while in this pose. The hidden aim pose disables after you attack on your turn, and you can get this down to, what is that, every 2 turns? 5, 4, 3, 2. Yeah, 2 turns. Now you're like, okay, what makes him so special, right? It's this passive of his. He maintains the hidden aim pose and increases the attack bar by 50% when you defeat an enemy while in this pose. So 1, you put him on revenge, right? Triple revenge. We made a video on this. Again, I'm going to keep saying I made a video because I want you guys to go and watch it so you understand why I'm like fangirling here, right? You get into the battle. He enters hidden aim. He takes very little damage because glancing hits. And he gets attacked. And since he revenge procs, he does the 200% increased damage, does skill 1, and he will kill somebody. But even if he doesn't kill them, because he didn't attack on his turn with the hidden aim pose, he doesn't get out of it. And then he just takes his turn, and then he's still in the enemy hidden aim pose when he's in his turn, or when he does his turn. So then you could just finish off the enemy. In that video where we use him on Triple Revenge, we are absolutely destroying people. I'm not joking. In fact, no. I can't let this slide. I have to play a clip. Here's a clip.
What you think you're doing, son? What do you think you're doing? Oh man. Hidden aim. Very cool. Very nice. Boom.
Yeah. Grab this guy. In fact, I'm grabbing him next week. I need him. I need him now. Let's move on to the next unit. Next unit is Valeria, the Light Dryad. I picked her because I thought she was actually a pretty freaking good support. You throw her on Violent, and I think she can do some crazy things. I'm gonna grab her, and we're gonna make a video on this chick. But let's take a look at her. Skill 1 attacks and absorbs enemies' attack bar by 15% with a 50% chance. It is what it is. Plus, you can fuse your skill ups technically. Skill 2, honeybees will transfer all harmful effects granted on the allies to the targeted enemies. Recovers HP of all allies by 15% afterwards. So, harmful effect transfer, which is good. But then you get her passive. Her passive is what I find to be very interesting. She recovers the HP of all allies granted with harmful effects by 20% for every turn. So she heals all allies with harmful effects by 20% every turn. Or she creates a shield that's equivalent to 15% of her HP on allies with no harmful effects every turn. So you could put her on like Violent Nemesis, and it's just like every time she takes a turn, she's either healing or putting shields. She could make for a very, very annoying defense. Heck, you even have it here. Very fun to play with, very good support. Valeria has strong XP and support. Wmon, she could use a small buff in her opinion. Yeah, the shield could be bumped up to 20%. But this is how you make matches 10 times longer. Violent Nemesis. What did I say, bro? Your boy knows what he's. Ew. I mean, I guess it's decent. This is what your boy's talking about. It's like he knows what he's talking about. This is a good unit. Pick her up. Let's move on to the next unit. Bro, this is the second time I've picked 2 units in the same family, but for a good reason. Hyannis, Uranus, is a really good unit. First of all, Guild Speed Lead. Her first skill and second skill are not the second skill. Her first skill is the same as the other one. Second skill attacks all enemies, decreases their attack speed for 2 turns, ending their attack bar by 50%. This is the same as Melia, if I recall. Yeah, this is the same as Melia. Her third skill is what's special. Mandrake. She attacks all enemies to increase the enemy's harmful effect duration by 1 turn, and decreases the enemy's beneficial effect duration by 2 turns. This already alone, I think, is pretty powerful. But in addition, she deals additional damage by 15% of the enemy's max HP if the enemy, boss excluded, has a beneficial effect or a harmful effect. So she can do some serious damage. Pair her up with someone like Nora, or just anyone who's placing tons of harmful effects. Heck, even like Juno. Is just two. Those are just 2 units that I'm thinking of off the rip. She could do a lot of damage. Fully skill her up, by the way, obviously, which is going to be very easy because you could fuse your skill ups. Violent, Will, easy. Super underrated Mon, great in guild battles and Trial of Ascension, and however you spell it. Yes. Despair is not bad. I would drop the blue runes. Vile Focus or on Despair. Not bad, but obviously used in PvP. Very powerful PvP Mon. Let's move on to the next unit. So the next unit is Lynette, the Dark Magic Knight. I kind of wish that they did one for Iris, the Light Magic Knight, but still waiting on that one, right? But Lynette is still a really good unit. I mean, like, check her out. Universal attack speed lead. Even if it is 19%, that's still really good. Her first skill attacks the enemy 2 times, and then on her third attack, attacks everybody and inflicts continuous damage for 1 turn every hit with a 50% chance. We don't really care about this all too much, but it could be something. Her skill 2 shoots 4 magic bullets that seek enemies with low HP ratio. The bullets have a 70% chance to decrease the target's defense for 2 turns each. You don't need to skill this up because it doesn't decrease skill cooldown times, but you can get that 10% harmful effect rate. You could fuse her skill ups, by the way. There's the Wind Magic Knight that you could fuse. The biggest part about her kit is her skill 3. She attacks a target with a massive magic bullet, dealing damage according to the target's max HP. This attack also heals all allies by 30% of the damage dealt every 3 turns. This is very helpful for PvE scenarios. I mean, I'm sure you could use it as well in PvP, but PvE, she's going to be really good. We could take a look at her in here. Some people use her here. Necropolis. I wouldn't use her in Necropolis, but you can use her in a few of these places. She's a decent monster. She's going to be one that I'm going to be picking up, but I wouldn't be surprised if some people skip her. But I like her personally, so I'm going to be picking her. The next unit that we're going to be taking a look at is Lui Mei, the Light Kung Fu Girl. Is it Kung Fu? Yeah, Kung Fu Girl. I didn't know there was a G in Kung. I should have. Kung Fu Girl. She is actually a really, really good monster. You'll see why. Attacks the enemy with condensed energy and reduces the enemy's defense for 1 turn with a 50% chance. She has a chance to activate this skill with a 30% chance. When using Twist Kick, she attacks a target with a turning kick and decreases its attack bar by 50% with an 80% chance and decreases its attack speed for 2 turns. If the target's attack bar is depleted by this attack, the target will be stunned. Her third skill will be activated successively with a 20% chance when using this skill, and you could also decrease the cooldown time of this to 3 turns when fully skilling her up, which I think you can fuse her skill ups as well, can't you? You can get a Kung Fu Girl. Hold up, I need to check. I need to double check. I swear to God, you could fuse Kung Fu Girls. I swear to God, yeah, you can fuse Kung Fu Girls. I know what I'm talking about. And then you get skill 3. Attacks the enemy target and randomly attacks 3 more times to remove 1 beneficial effect. Each attack absorbs the enemy's attack bar by 20% and counterattacks with a 25% chance when attacked when this is on cooldown. Every 4 turns, fully skilled up, whatever. So she just has a really, she has the opportunity, she has the chance, she has the potential to just do hella attacks. I know a few people use her on R5. She's a really decent unit there. Yeah. Look at this. She's a pretty decent unit. You could build her like semi-tanky, but it's just like she can get a little stat hungry because it's like you do want a lot of stuff on her. You obviously want her to do, decent damage. You want her to have like crit rate, crit damage, but you also want her to have a little bit of accuracy. So she's landing like the defense breaks, the attack speed decreases, the strips, absorptions. She could use a lot of stats. So when you get to that point in the game where you're unlocking tons of really good runes, it wouldn't hurt to put tons of grinds and gems into her. I've seen some people throw her on Vampire Revenge, which is not a bad kit at all. Vampire Revenge would not be that bad. Yeah. Speed, crit damage, attack. But there's not too many wrong ways to build her. I mean, any way you build her, she's going to be useful in some way. But that is the main 10 that I am going to be going after. But I do have a couple honorable mentions. In case some of these units don't sound all that good to you. For example, I know for one, while me personally, I still like the Dark Magic Knight, some people might not like her. So I have a couple here that we're going to go over really quickly. Again, honorable mentions. So let's get into those. The first honorable mention is the Light Barbarian King, Mimir. First of all, guild speed lead. Really nice. Skill 1, attacks the enemy to inflict continuous damage for 1 turn with a 50% chance. Don't really care about that. Skill 2, attacks the enemy with a Wrathful Axe, leaving a branding effect for 2 turns, and increases your attack bar by 50%, while under the Berserk state, additionally decreases the enemy's attack bar by 50% every 2 turns. Nice. He does have Confine, which attacks the enemy target, stunning it for 2 turns and depleting its attack bar. So, essentially an attack bar reset for the enemy, and then stunning it for 2 turns. This is very powerful. He goes under the Berserk state for 3 turns afterwards. Under the Berserk state, the defense is decreased by 30%. Damage dealt to enemies is increased by 100%, and attack speed is increased by 20%, and HP is recovered by 10% of the damage dealt. every 3 turns. He's a pretty decent unit. Our next honorable mention is the Dark Blade Dancer, Veresa, however you say her name. She is actually a really good unit. If, like I mentioned earlier, if you don't like the Dark Magic Knight, I would highly recommend picking this unit up because her skill 2 and 3 are really powerful. Skill 1 attacks the enemy to decrease the attack bar by 30% with a 50% chance. It does increase to 75% chance if you fully skill her up, which would not be a bad idea. That 30% attack bar decrease can be nice. Her skill 2 is called Blade Dance of Night. She attacks the enemy 3 times to decrease the attack bar by 50% each, and deals damage that ignores the defense when the target's attack bar is 0 every 3 turns. I think we made a video with the Wind Blade Dancer, and that skill 2 can deal tons of damage. I've seen it wipe out units, but that Wind one also has a passive that increases damage, so it's still a very powerful skill 2. But the most amazing part of this unit's kit is, of course, its skill 3, where she attacks all enemies 3 times with powerful energy. Each attack has an 80% chance to remove all beneficial effects, to decrease the attack power for 2 turns, and to increase the chances of landing a glancing hit for 2 turns, respectively, every 4 turns when fully skilled up, and you can increase the harmful effect rate by 20%, making it a 100% chance. So, AoE, multi-hit, strip, attack break, and glancing. She can pair nice with Guilliman if you think about it, but she's a very, very good unit. Um, she hits 30k with this build, like it, so it could be on top. Yeah. Does she hit 30k? With that build, if she hits 30k, I guarantee you with one of my builds, she can hit 60k. Useful, thick, wrong color, and I have her twice. Trying her out, my fave, wrong color, blah, blah, blah. I guess you can go for the light one, Leia. I don't know if the light one is in Hall of Heroes. Is the light one in Hall of Heroes? I didn't pay attention to that. No, no, it is not. The light one is not in the Hall of Heroes. So, literally, the dark one is the only one that's in there, which is a shame. That's the same way I feel about the Dark Magic Knight. Moving on to the next one. Luna, the Dark Pierrette. That's another honorable mention. She's actually a decent unit. Her skill 1 is a strip. She throws 2 cards, each having a 50% chance to remove a beneficial effect. You don't even have to worry about skilling up to skill 1. Her skill 2 attacks with a magic card and inflicts continuous damage to the enemy for 3 turns with an 80% chance. Fully skilling this up will get it down to 3 turns. I think the one that I have on a different account, I don't have her skill 2 fully skilled up. I don't really care about this continuous damage skill 2. But her skill 3 is actually really nice. She locks down the enemy target with the power of darkness to inflict damage that's proportionate to the enemy's max HP, and decreases the target's attack bar by 50%. This attack recovers your attack bar by 100% when used with full HP every 3 turns. She also has a universal accuracy lead, which is nice. So the next honorable mention is Lucas, the Light Neostone Fighter. Lucas has a universal attack power lead. Skill 1 attacks the enemy and he buffs himself with an attack buff for 2 turns, which is nice. Skill 1 doing that is nice. Skill 2 attacks the enemy and leaves a branding effect for 1 turn. This attack will also decrease the enemy's defense for 2 turns if it lands as a critical hit. Instantly gains another turn if the target's HP is less than 50% after the attack, every 3 turns when fully skilled up. The cool thing about this guy is his passive. The attack performed on your turns will generate a shield that's equivalent to the damage dealt for 1 turn. He also increases your critical rate by 30% and damage proportionate to the shield amount granted on yourself, up to 200% with every attack. So, being able to place a shield on himself whenever he attacks, I wanted to try this guy and place him on Revenge to see if he's just placing shields on himself. I wonder if Triple Revenge would work. We have to. I might get my hands on this guy. I might put him over Dark Magic Knight, to be honest. Yeah, we have to. Yeah. Let's go on to our last honorable mention. Our last honorable mention is, of course, Figaro. I mean, we made a video on this guy, and I had so much fun with him. Figaro is such a fun unit. I don't think he's the best unit, but I would pick him up because he's really, really fun. But he can be pretty decent. You look at his passive. With every attack, he removes 1 beneficial effect. So, built-in strip on every single attack. From the targeted enemy and installs a bomb that detonates after 2 turns with a 35% chance. In addition, he cancels incoming damage with a 25% chance. So every single time he attacks, he can place bombs and he can strip, which is nice. His skill 2 can place glancing, stun, or decrease the attack speed on all enemies. every 3 turns when fully skilled up. Plus his skill 1 disturbs enemies' HP recovery. I made a video on this guy. He's another unit that I went like triple revenge on, and you could just place him on tons of HP, tons of attack power, and a good amount of accuracy. Very annoying unit. I wish people that people I made a video on it. Go watch that video. But those are all the units that I would recommend. I know there are going to be other units that people are going to be like, "Oh, you should have talked about this unit or this unit." There's too many units to go over. This video is already super long. It's 40 minutes long. And that's, I mean, I might have to cut it. When I cut it, it might go down to like 25 minutes. This is a lot of me just blabbering on and then stuttering and then having to restart. But those are my recommendations. There are other units that I'm sure people are going to talk about, but those are my top 10 plus some honorable mentions. Tell me what you guys think. What do you think about some of the units that I recommended to you guys? Are you going to pick them, or are there other units that you would recommend? If you have recommendations, place them in the comment section, dude. Help some new players. But I hope you guys have a nice one. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.